Wow, everybody got here like exactly on time.
Yay!
Yay!
I'm gonna log off then. I'll be back.
Oh, stop. So welcome to another Run Wild with Us, Ask Us Anything. I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild. And I'm here with some of our amazing acquisition editors. Ruben Teehee Hazlett, who has most recently taken over the role of acquisition editor for Rise, and Ben White, who is one of our acquisition editors. Well, he gets suckered into kind of like anything, but as long as he lets me, let's just put it that way. And then usually we will have Peter Wright. We'll see if we get Peter later on. But so anyone who is watching, if you're watching the recording, that's awesome. From what I hear, we can be kind of hilarious. But if you don't know how this works, how this works is you go ahead and you post whatever question you have for us into the comments section of whatever venue you're watching this, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I'll say the question, and then we take turns in answering it. It can actually be a lot of fun, and if you don't have any questions, that's okay. We're really good at coming up with wild ass shit to talk about anyway. So and so too, today I'm gonna probably end this like 5-10 minutes early, just because Teehee and I have a storytellers happy hour right after this, and I need to go get my martini set up.
Who's your guest?
I got a little confused, so I got my alcohol early.
Oh, you're fine. I've just been in like meeting. So all I did was I put my martini shaker in the freezer so it would actually be cold. That's as far as I got. So awesome! Yay, we have Peter! Woo! Man, we've got a good house going on this time.
Full house, awesome.
Yeah, this is fabulous. We may even get James sometime, because I know he showed a lot of interest. He may actually join us, Teehee, for Storytellers Happy Hour.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be a blast. So,
Do you have an author guest tonight?
No, we don't have a guest tonight.
Okay.
No, I gave up on that because it started getting too hard. It was like, here, let me message the entire, all these people. And then half of them, they're probably already drunk anyway, because I'm on the West Coast and they're probably on the East Coast already like trashed out of their minds. So they're like, anyway. So Teehee and I just Teehee comes up with a prompt and we usually take it from there. So
it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. It absolutely is. And I know people actually watch it because I get reached out to afterwards like, oh my God, did that really happen? And I'm like, well, what do you want me to say? Do you want me to like tell you it's a true story, or I can play it either way. It's all good. By the way, as far as I know, every story we've told so far has been true. So
Yeah.
Just to freak people out.
It helps to have lived a life.
Right? Exactly. All right. So, guys, what have you been up to? What is going on?
Writing. Editing. What else is there?
Oh, people have other things in their lives? I had no idea.
Too cold out to go motorcycle riding, so I'm just staying hunkered in. Just paying attention to words.
Nice.
Things are good.
Nice. Well, I do have a I don't know if this isn't really a good story to share, but I've noticed that we have some.
Who's got the clock?
I think that's Teehee.
Has some what?
A clock.
You have a clock behind you?
Something like ticking. Kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the ceiling fan
Ah,
above me.
okay.
That is-
Oh.
Okay, let me figure it out.
So while he figures it out, I noticed this trend lately. We have some authors and some aspiring authors that like to look up my private phone number and call me, and either to tell me I need to make a decision on their piece, insist on telling me who their editor is, or to, I don't know, something, rant in some capacity. May I please recommend that if you are an aspiring author or an author, please don't look up people's private.
Don't do that.
Oh, you don't want me giving your number out? Oh, okay, I'll stop.
Now you tell us.
I mean, yeah, it's like sometimes, if I give you my phone number and I actively invite you to call me, that's one thing. If we ended up on a call in some way and you happen to retain my phone number, that does not mean I gave it to you. It means you looked it up and you're using it for your own purposes. If you go online and you look up my phone number, that is not, I don't even know where you're getting, I really don't know where you're getting it from, because it is actually marked as a private number. So just please don't, that's just not, I'm probably just too old for this, right? Like, I come from a generation, you don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, unless someone directly gives you their phone number, you don't look up their phone number to call them. And again, unless you're invited to do so. Does this make sense?
The only person who ever calls me on the phone. Oh, sorry.
No, I just bought her number from Elon Musk.
So who calls you on the phone, T? We're allowed to ignore Ben sometimes.
My mom. My mom is the only person who calls me on like the phone function of the phone.
Oh yeah.
Like everyone else is like WhatsApp or Signal, or I talk to people on Zoom. Like I barely use my phone as the phone function. Also, the only person who texts me is really my mom. Everybody else is on WhatsApp or Signal. But also, I don't know, I'm a millennial, so like you should just not call people.
Yeah.
I mean, I mostly just get I can tell they bought my phone number off of some list because it's an old number. I never changed my number from when I was on the East Coast. And so they're calling me at like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. because they're thinking it's like 8 a.m. And I'm like, you can put me on your do not call list. And half the time they're good about it. And the other half, they get mad. And I'm like, you understand it's 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, what?
Yikes.
So anyway, but yeah, don't, again, unless, I don't know. Do you guys experience anything like that? Or is this like a me thing?
I get a lot of scam text messages, and sometimes, well, they don't happen anymore, but like, and it's always on WhatsApp. And as like a gay person, it doesn't work on me, but it's like some young Asian girl that's like, hey, just woke up this morning, what are you up to? And I'm like, who are you? And no, like, I'm not having a conversation with you.
I get those young Asian women ones too, and I'm like, why did you actually look at my name? Like, there's no way you're confusing my name for a man's name. Like, and it's marked as married. So what part of this do we not get that I'm a straight female? But oh well. Peter looks like, I don't know why I'm here.
No, I'm just thinking that I got a call the other day, and it was way early. I wanted to yell at the caller, but it was nowhere near 6 o'clock. It was more like 9:15. Like, that's way too early to answer the phone, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
And I'm on the East Coast, so I don't do morning.
All right. So so far we don't have any questions in the chat. So so I'm gonna go ahead and ask. So what is like your dream project? Like something you've always wanted to do and you haven't had a chance to. So I'm gonna start with Ben.
Because I'm the dreamer. That's why.
That's right. Damn straight.
There's not a structured bone in your body.
Yeah, I would like to see a production of a book go to film,
Okay.
and just to visit the set and see what they do with it. Not, for no other reason than just to see, oh, that's the process. Okay, do it right. Because I've always heard that Harper Lee went to the set of To Kill a Mockingbird and just kind of hung out and put pressure on all the actors. I hope we're doing this right. I hope I look like the father figure. Okay. No, Gregory, you don't. Change that 3-piece suit. But just to visit that the set when you know the characters, or you see how the characters come out.
Okay. Cool.
Woo.
Great. Teehee, how about you? What's your like dream?
I think mine is similar, but like because I love movies, but I love TV even more. So like I guess a dream project would be to be in the writer's room with a bunch of other writers working on like a show that I came up with, but like haven't fully hashed out so that like everyone can help make it something really cool. But it's still originally my idea.
Okay. Cool. Peter, how about you? What's your dream project?
Well, I have two. One to piggyback on Teehee's is I would love to be in the room converting a novel into a script.
Okay.
Into what the actors are going to say, and how the set builders are going to build a set, how the choreographer is going to stage everything. That would be awesome. Now, a dream job would be I'd get to travelogue my travels around the country. I have 37 states on 2 wheels. I plan to get 37 states, 2 provinces. I plan to get the other states and Hawaii and Alaska before I retire my keys. But I'd be able to travelogue my writing, put in 2,000, 3,000 word column every week, but then be able to write fiction in my free time and pursue this other project that recently just fell in my lap. So,
wow,
you got 2 going on right there.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Nice.
In a perfect world, I could go to some of the greatest books that I've ever read and be able to see them when the author hands them off to the editor, see what condition they were in, see how much the editor did to polish and finesse the story.
That changes with time, right?
What do you mean?
Well, oftentimes, what I've seen is really good authors, they never think they're like done.
Right.
And they usually have 1 or 2 editors they really, really trust. And they'll send their work to them first and they'll learn from the feedback. Like if they thematically do certain things wrong,
right,
they'll learn from that feedback and then, do those changes before it goes to the editor the next time they work on something.
I want to see that the first process. So here we go to an editor process.
Okay.
Wrath, Kill the Mockingbird, that kind of stuff.
All right. Like the very first time.
Very first time it goes to Lee's hands. Yeah.
But you've already done that. You've already had, Curtis has had what, 2 books named Best of the Year. So you've already got that.
I know.
You just need to see someone else.
Well, you put me on the spot there. Good point.
I mean, dude, you yourself have done it. Come on.
Okay.
I feel like it's always a
Cross that off the
little.
list.
I feel like it's always a little scary when you send your manuscript to an editor. Because the last time I did it for Orbital Bebop, sending it to Cody, I was like, I have no idea what you're going to think about this. Like, this was like a crazy idea that took like a year of research and 2 years to write. And I was just kind of like in my own like cave figuring it out and getting really crazy. And then I was like, oh God, somebody else is going to take it. And like, I feel like for most authors, it's probably pretty nerve-wracking.
That's true. Yeah, it's so I told Cody, you don't have to accept the first draft of Ruben's work. You can always tell him no and give him some feedback. And you can also just hand it off to another editor. And he was like, nope, I'm good. It's mine. I went, okay.
It was a trip. Maybe this is so. If we don't have any questions yet, maybe we could ask each other questions.
Do it.
Yeah. So I'm curious about other people's experiences with editors, and like, yeah, like maybe this is a good way to phrase this question. What is the ideal sort of relationship between an author and editor in your experiences as both?
All right, you guys, who wants to go first?
Well, I'll go because it's going to piggyback off Peter's experience too. So
Okay.
Because I know he has seen the movie Genius, where Thomas Wolfe brings in his manuscript for Look Homeward, Angel. And it's a mess. and Max Perkins goes through it and fixes it. But having read it, I still think Max could have cut out another 10,000 words and we would have been all right. But the other and that was a great relationship. And I think you have that model for the relationship to Tihi's question. When you have that trust in somebody to take that box full of notes and turn it into a novel. And the other one is Dr. Seuss. I've heard that he would hide subtle, risque points in his manuscripts and kind of dare his editor to find them.
I heard that too.
Yeah. And so if it was stuff that you weren't going to hand off to the kids. But he would do it just to see if it would get caught. So I think that kind of relationship is very trusting as well. Say, I'm kidding, but can you find it? Because if you can't, I've got to go back and find it myself.
I hope I'm kidding.
Two examples of a trusting relationship that you want to have. And whether it's as a writer or as an editor, you want to present yourself as that person who is going to provide trusted advice or accept trusted advice, be trusted enough to accept what's being said. So Lisa has to take everything I say about Cure as trusted advice.
Peter, do you want to go?
Yes. My experience with authors, I mean, some authors want to meet every week, have a time down, they have a scheduled phone call so we can talk about the manuscript as it's evolving and as I'm editing. And I'm just more of a hands-off kind of author. I'll take the full manuscript, I'll make my edits, and I send it back to you. And I'm going to do another full line read and a full line editing, as well as a full comprehensive editing process. But I don't want to be in contact that much because I have to put the author away from the manuscript because I don't want their personality or their energy influencing how I'm looking at their words, because their words are not them. And if I'm influenced by any way by who the author is, and I've edited some really prolific authors, I've got to keep that this is just a story. It could be the first book they've ever written, and I'm going to give my best. That's how I'm going to approach it. I'm not going to let that interfere or infuse my editing process, because it will eventually hurt the author, no matter who they are. And as far as editing, I mean, I'm not Ben who gets, a perfect A on the first manuscript pass through, but I've always appreciated other editors' input on my work, because they're seeing it from a completely different perspective than mine. And they're always going to pick up stuff that I missed, or stuff that I could make better or enhance, which I know is saying the same thing, but regardless, to make it even better, because that's as you know, that's exactly what I believe an editor should do, is make a piece better for the author's sake.
That's interesting, because so from an editor perspective, I think I agree with both Peter and Ben. I go for my first read is I'm reading it as a reader. So, I'm just looking for those gaps where it lags, or, the storyline doesn't make sense, or, those real basic things, which, and I fully admit this. I mean, all of us have MFAs. We're all very well read, right? We've all studied many stories that we've, dissected many stories that we loved. So that is, we've got that in our back pocket, even when we're reading as readers. So things that seem basic to us, someone who isn't a writer or an editor, they wouldn't necessarily see the same things, if that makes sense. They might just think like, this doesn't work, but I don't know why, right? And we're looking at it going, why in the hell did he suddenly change the point of view to blah, blah, blah? This makes absolutely no sense. It completely breaks the story, and it doesn't add anything, right? Whereas a regular reader, they won't get that. As an author being edited, I am terrified every single time I send my work into an editor. It doesn't matter if I have a relationship with the editor. It doesn't matter if it's a new interaction, because I am absolutely convinced that even if I have gone through this like 10 times and I think it's clean, there is something completely effed up in it that I have no idea I did, and it just doesn't work. And not one thing. I'm convinced there's like 20 things, right? And so I kind of hand it off like that. and there's a whole lot of this going on. And then when I get it back, and, it's like, Lisa, don't have a panic attack. I don't have panic attacks, but you know what I mean? So, and then usually, like if there is something thematically, I'm to Ben's point, it is actually both Ben and Peter. So much of this it's a collaboration, right? So it's got to be someone you trust, who understands your writing and what you're looking to do, or what you're doing. And so when they give you feedback, it aligns with what your vision is for whatever this piece is, and that it'll make it better, right? Versus, like, I've had some editors that I worked with when I used to work with different journals that I'm sure they would have made a great, like a high school line editor. But, we weren't doing line editing. We were supposed to be editing short stories. And so their feedback really, not that it wasn't pertinent, but it would have ruined the story, because, part of the art of the story was using an alternate structure, right? Or part of the art of the story was playing with points of view in a very, precise way, and in a very intentional way. And, they couldn't understand that. So, that having that huge type of relationship with your editor is absolutely incredible. And I've had people who edited my work who are dear friends, and they would flat out say, look, I just had a blast reading this. So I gave it to this other editor because I was afraid that I just missed something, because, we're friends and, we've known each other forever. Right. And I admit I do that too. That's part of the reason why we have an acquisition team, because I know that if, there are some people that if I see their work come across our table, I'm just going to say, we'll figure it out, right? Like this may not work, but we'll figure it out. It's okay. And these guys keep me honest. And I think we all kind of keep each other honest, if that makes sense. So.
Yep.
And we finally got a question. Sorry.
Who lives next to the drag strip?
Who lives next to the drag strip? I think it's you.
Y'all just
motorcycle.
So y'all can hear everything happening in my neighborhood.
Yeah, that's
we can almost hear your thoughts, Teehee. That's
and so I live in Mexico, and I live in like a traditional Mexican neighborhood, and it is loud. Last night was some child's birthday that went until about 3:00 in the morning.
Oh wow!
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So noise will happen. Maybe I should take these earbuds out because my actual laptop's noise canceling is quite well. So I think I'm going to do that.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, I know Robbie's joined us and he does have a question. So his question is, what's one writing cliche that you never want to see again? And this time I'm going to start with Peter because I can tell he already has something in his head.
There are no cliches I ever want to see. If I see a cliche in a manuscript, I cross it out. I say, no, you're better than this. Writers create cliches. We do not copy them. And I mean that.
Damn it.
There are times when it does fit the situation and I hedge. I really hedge. I'm like, I'm going to wait till the next time I read this draft to see if we can leave that in there because it does fit the moment. But it's a cliche. And I've been arguing this since 2010. I just do not, or 2007, I just do not buy it. We're better than that and can't do it. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're up the river without a paddle, running out of knots on the rope. I mean, you're better than that. Just know that you're better than that. Quietly, I said that.
No, you didn't.
So it's a pet peeve of mine.
Teehee, what do you think?
I 100% agree. Like any cliche is just bad and you should avoid them at all costs. But I do have like a quick mini list in my head. And the number one, especially with short stories, because I used to write short stories. Right now I'm writing novels. But having your protagonist die at the end of a story is not good. It's not good. We've invested our time and our emotional commitment with this character, and then they're just, and it's like it feels like what you're doing is dramatic, but actually what you're doing is like kneecapping your own audience. And I had a creative writing professor who used to say, like, there's so many fates worse than death. So if you want to punish your character, you could have that character continue living in the worst environment specifically for that character, right? If you're really trying to punish your characters. But I also feel like that's a cliche. What is the other one? So it's like, quit killing your main characters, please, for the love of God. Unlikable characters, also, like, there's a way to do it, but I don't like it most of the time. Like, especially if you're writing a novel, like, you're with this character for a long time. And if that person is just like a scum of the earth, horrible person, like, I don't want to follow their life. Like, there has to be some nugget of goodness within a character. It is interesting to have like complicated anti-hero kind of characters, but I feel like the anti-hero is a cliche that I never want to read again. And don't need to see on television or movies ever again. I think it's over. Also, describing people as having piercing eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Stop.
How about you, Ben?
Well, I think I've come across some that have been used in dialogue, and which is a good place for them because people use them, and if your character uses them, that fits. But
Okay.
you still want to get the reaction to a cliche right, and the response to that when somebody says uses a cliche. What you want to feel every other character in the story's eyes roll when they do it.
And not use their eyes roll.
Yeah, yeah. Don't say they rolled their eyes. But to T's point though, it's a conversation that Lisa and I had in Cure. I said you can't kill that character off because there goes your sequel.
No, it's because you like that character. Don't even play. You were so upset when I inferred I was going to kill off this character.
I've saved a lot of your characters.
That's true.
Can't kill that person off.
He's like, you need to make them a shapeshifter. I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah. But and that's right. We did that with Edward.
Yeah, we did that a couple times.
Eddie's a shapeshifter. But the extreme of a cliche is trying to not use a cliche and trying to make your prose way too anti-cliche, and it gets in the way. Just you don't want to say it's a dark and stormy night. Say it was cloudy and rainy, and at night.
Yeah.
But just say it, and stop trying to make it turn your prose into poetics to avoid a cliche, and because that gets in the way as well.
Mm. Now, all these men have experienced. If you've got a cliche in like the first 5 pages of a submission to us, I immediately decline it. And Teehee knows this because we used to be on the acquisitions board for an online journal back when we were in grad school. And I was like, nope. Because it's like, if you can't even, like, you want to give me a hook, but it please don't have it be some, like it was a dark and stormy night or any cliche. I will just immediately, like, it's like, if you can't get it right in the first 2 pages, then I don't want to read the rest of it. Like, I don't want to keep going. I don't want to keep saving your prose. I mean, honestly, we were I was at the San Francisco Writers Conference 2 weekends ago, and this woman comes up to us during BarCon. And for those who are not familiar, BarCon is where you hang out at the bar after all the workshops and, all this. And she has like a case of like notes and stuff about her memoir. And I love how everyone's like, what? And she wanted us to take her pitch, right? And so she starts it, and it is so clunky and so overwritten. Like, she was trying to hit every hot topic in that pitch, like in the first paragraph, that you didn't even know what the hell it was about. And every time we gave her feedback, she would start arguing with us. And I finally said, can I have that? So I took it, I got a pen, and I edited it on the spot, and I handed it to her. And I'm like, here, this will work. You'll get a response with this. And she reads it, and she reads it out loud. Everybody around us was like, yep, nailed it, right? And she's like, are you sure? Don't I have to mention that I grew up in Mexico? I'm like, no, that's not what your memoir is about. Don't I have to mention? No. And she was also, by the way, obviously, let's just use this cliche, 3 sheets to the wind. By the way, where did that come from? Because although I know what it means, what is 3 sheets to the wind? Where did that originate?
I'm going to ask Google's AI.
I love it when the authors argue with you, because that's going to help you help their novels when they argue back at you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, I'm saying this for a reason. Don't give me this. Tell it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. No, it doesn't work that way either.
That my ultimate is, like, okay, like you're welcome to come back to me and ask me questions. That's fine, right?
Mhm.
But when after we've all actually had that conversation, you then reach out to like a mutual friend and say, should I listen to her?
Because this is the thing about writing, whether it's fiction or poetry or prose, or whether you're like writing a memo at your job that's only going to be seen by like 7 people or whatever, but like having the low ego to take edits and to take critique, because it doesn't come from a bad place. Like I'm always a sucker for line edits, because the first thing I think is like, oh, someone read it. Right.
Right? They actually
I just don't think when someone did that like, and like that's where you should start from. It's like, oh, someone read it and they have ideas. It's not always a like, no one is saying like, oh, your writing is trash. It's like, here's how it can be better. But having the low ego to just be like, yes, people will have opinions, they're gonna have edits, they're gonna have suggestions, and it's not bad, and you didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Like, it's just no one hits anything perfectly out of the gate.
It's funny. I'm on typically, like, because I do a lot of panels at like conferences and stuff, and I want to call it "Don't be a dick," but I keep being told I'm not allowed to use foul language. So then I'm like, well, how about "Don't be a jackass"? And they're like, no, Lisa, it's you can't do either. So then it's like, okay, fine. Then how to work with an editor, like, because that's the bottom line, right? Is both the editor and the author have to come to it from a place of with an open mind and a willingness to have a dialogue about it, right? But again, back to, I think, Peter's one of your original points. But don't call me every day. Like, don't email me 2-3 times a day. Don't message me asking, when am I going to have your edits done? Because guess what? That was time I could have been spending on working on your piece. But instead, I am responding to you because because you're impatient, right? And all of us are working on 5 million things at the same time, just like you, the author. So, not allowing yourself to take a breath and have trust in the process and allowing them to get stuff done. It's just, it's anti-productive. So, yeah. Caroline. Sorry. Go
ahead. If TE has 7 people reading a memo, I'm going to send you one of my books. And I want you to take it to work and double my readership.
I spent half the day working on a memo at my job that will only be seen by 7 people, and the amount of editing and re-editing, which is not bad, right? But it's just like everyone's brain thinks different. So and I'm writing it with 2 other people, so it's like 3 people's brains have to produce a coherent document, and it's like, yeah, this is gonna take several days because we just all think differently.
Yeah.
I think the one cliche that I cannot stand is clearing your throat. He cleared his throat. It's too many words, too many syllables to do one thing. Makes no sense to me. Better really have a reason for it, because otherwise it takes up time.
And do people really do that anymore? Like, that used to be in like when it was black and white TV.
Yeah.
Characters did that a lot.
It's clearing my throat, but they have to be that long sentence. It's like, no. Choose a different action.
Caroline Davenport says, where do you, all of you, each of you, feel your characters now have to be careful about being politically correct? Like, I made a reference to Indians and realized it could get me in trouble. Oh, and Evangeline says, hey, Teehee.
Hi, Evangeline.
All right, who wants to tackle Caroline's question first?
Well, Teehee's the most animated. I give it to him.
Jesus.
That's
Okay.
Popular.
How do you feel about your characters being politically correct? I feel like I don't, But here's the thing, because like I have like several layers of like minority and marginalized identities. So like I don't actually pay attention to political correctness at all. But like, yeah, so I feel like it's much more interesting to have characters who are aware of political context as opposed to the author being the only person. Like everyone is a political creature. I say this because I have like a long career in political activism. We're all political actors. So your characters should also be political actors and be aware of the politics that they live in. That makes the world feel whole and creative and rich. It feels like a rich environment that's realistic. So rather than like, oh, this character is politically incorrect or that character, like it's much more interesting if characters argue about that in their very own specific context of their own world, especially if it's like science fiction where like the world could be different, or fantasy. Like that's why people love Game of Thrones, right? Like it was a lot of political machinations and talking about politics and gaming out things, but for a specific world. So I would think about that.
No, that's fair. And Peter, who wants to tackle it next?
I'll go. I think to reference Tihi's thoughts is to use it for a reason, to call attention to that correctness or incorrectness for a reason as a tool for the author to really make a statement. You know, like some things are inherently ridiculous from one person's point of view or another person's point of view, but they can't bring it out and elevate it so it's up to the world stage, as it were, within a novel or a story. That makes it worth talking about or thinking about. You know, if a character specifically chooses to be politically incorrect, why is he or she doing that? Adversely, if they choose to be politically correct, why are they doing that? And how does that reflect thematically throughout the story? You know?
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Peter? I mean, Ben, I always do that. I don't know. I clearly need my martini.
We're wearing the same color hoodie, so I mean, that's easy to do. There we go again.
A yellow cloak.
Mm.
But, I grew up in South Central Kentucky in a 30-mile radius where I know political incorrectness. I learned it early. And my advantage was to get out of there and transcend that. So when I look back at it, I see it, and it's true. And I think you got it right. What's true? And if the character is not embracing of all of humanity, then make that character true. And but it has to have the point, like Peter's saying, it's got to have a point to the story, and that character has to be likable or not likable or somewhere in the middle. And but as you base it on experience and what you've come across, you know, I've had a discussion here in New Mexico with a Native American student who'd been in the Army and was telling me that when he was stationed with a bunch of people from the East Coast, they were amazed to find out that there were Native Americans left in America.
What?
And you got to tell that story. That story is too rich not to capture and steal from that kid. So here I am telling it. But you know, that's what they told me. And you know, he was shocked to hear it too. He said, "Yeah, it's the Navajo Nation. There's a bunch of us." But
oh my God.
Because and again, and y'all have heard me say it for a couple of weeks now, human nature doesn't change. And if it's wrong in the 50s, it's probably something just as wrong in the 2025s. And you can, that's what makes fiction work, because even the dystopian novels work because human nature hasn't changed. It's still the characters. And so I think you can't shy away from it, but you've got to know it though. Back to Caroline's question, the reference to Indians. If you don't know anything about Indians, if you think they're all dead, don't write about them.
Yeah.
It's not yours to write. It's not yours to write. And admit that and say, you know, I've got this idea, but it's not mine to write right now. I may
Mhm.
get some experience and do some research and round it out. But until then, it's not mine to write. I can't write it.
Yeah, I mean, like I intentionally, so I don't look at something and say, "Ooh, this is political. Let me write it." It's what would be an interesting story, and as I'm writing the story, I'll find characters will find themselves in situations that have political tension, and I think to everyone's point, these are situations that they're not going away, right? Like I have how Luna, the main character, meets her long-term boyfriend Javier is because she's basically getting attacked in the park because she comes from a multiracial background, and some kids pick a fight with her. Like, what are you? And him and his buds come in and, basically defend her and her brother, right? And I based that on a true story. Growing up, my best friend, her parents were originally from the South. Her father was African American and her mother was white. And we were actually coming home from, I don't know, someplace, because we were very good at getting into trouble. And some boys decided that it would be a good time to, hit on her / try and beat the crap out of her and question her ethnicity. And I was like, no, you're not allowed to do that. This is not appropriate, And, I got into a fist fight with these boys because, that I'm that person, right? Like, I'm like that. This is just not the correct thing to do. So guess what? I'm going to kick your ass. I honestly don't remember what happened after that. When you like get into a fight and you've got that adrenaline going and all you know is you got out of it somehow. That was classic me. So anyway, when I was a kid, but like, so, and that just ended up being like, it just felt like the right way to have Luna find her best friend / long-term boyfriend. Do you know what I mean? Like, so so I'll use situations that either I've been in or I have friends who've been in or I've witnessed in my writing, but I'm not intentionally saying, you know what, I can't stand, the current senator or mayor or president or whatever it is, right? Or I don't believe that we actually have a native nation. So I'm going to challenge this in the story. Like, that it doesn't work like that for me, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
So Caroline says, so what if a character says something that is truthful in the time period the story was written, but not today? Do we take that remark out?
So I would give this advice. Like, if you're this worried about a specific comment that some character makes, take it out, put it away for 3 or 4 days, go back and read it, and then add it back in, put it away for a couple of days, and go back and read it again. And your feeling about that comment, if it's a visceral, guttural, then that means it shouldn't be there for a variety of reasons that might not even be political correctness. If you take it out and it reads exactly the same and you put it back in and you have no real gut level feeling, then perhaps that's a sign it doesn't need to be there anyway. If you're writing a short story, real estate counts. Every word counts. So if it's better to take it out, take it out. If you really want to show the character and flavor of a time period and you feel like that is missing once it's taken, like once you take an element out of a story, especially a short story, it becomes really obvious if it was like a load-bearing detail or just like a cosmetic detail.
Yeah.
Because you can pull some stuff out and you're like, oh, now none of this works anymore. None of it makes sense. But yeah, that's just the editing process. And I would say, like, to focus less on political correctness. These things change all the time. I'm a super progressive, radical, crazy person. And I'm saying, don't worry about this. Trends and tastes change all the time and all throughout history. Just focus on telling a good story.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Ditto.
Well, my thought is, what are you using it for? Why is it, if it's truthful in the moment, if it's truthful at that time and not now, why is that? What's changed and what the character, or what are you as the author trying to convey by using that word?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are a lot of trigger words out there that were acceptable 50 years ago that aren't acceptable at all now. What's the purpose for this inclusion in the story? You know, and like T says, what's your gut reaction to it? Your visceral reaction, say, why this is why I don't think it should be in there. Well, counter with your brain going, this is why it should be in there. That's an internal argument that you need to go back and forth on to decide which fits better with you as the storyteller. You know?
Yep. Ditto. Don't you love how I'm just piggybacking on everyone?
And I think you got to watch out for the time. Go ahead, T.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just thinking about the time period itself being a cliche. And if you're writing it well enough, you don't have to use the language they would use. People know the language they would use. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's a very nice subtle change not to use the language for the reader. I wrote a whole e-novel about the Army in the Cold War in the 1980s, and I purposely did not use any cuss words.
Bastard.
And so it became a joke. It became an ongoing joke in the narrative that he says something that started with an F. I'm not sure what it was. And, of course, you know what it was. And,
yeah.
But
he cried foul.
I've got an unpublished work, The Mermaid Skeleton, where it's a series of witness statements. And every time something bad goes wrong, there's one character that wants to blame it on another certain character. This is in Kentucky in the 60s. And he wants to blame it on that character, but he doesn't have to let his true feelings known. He's just saying something. It was him, you know, and you know what he's thinking without him telling you what he's thinking and what he wants to say. You don't have to. It's just good writing, I think, but you have to make sure that time period is clear, and you don't want to tap into the cliche of the time period or the description of the time period. Even you want to tap into what your reader already knows, and then take them somewhere else.
And a quick comment, and then if it's okay, I'm gonna close us out early just so that I can go get my martini for our next our next convo. But to Ben's point, honestly, the best dialogue that you're gonna find, it is not absolutely indicative of that time period or of that culture. It has hints to it within it, but it does not. It is not something that is it's a complete quote, right? And the reason for that is exactly what everyone's already said. If you are already familiar with that period and with those, it's about the characters and what's going on within the story. It's not about the dialogue, right? And that dialogue is just supposed to be a baked in part of that. And if you're using anything like I ain't feeling it, I'm not going to say I ain't feeling it over and over and over again in the dialogue, right? I might use it once and have it in a situation where it will then enrich the moment and also tell you more about those characters, but I'm not going to keep doing it over and over. So, all right. And with that, I'm going to go make myself a gin martini. As always, these guys are amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you, Evangeline. Thank you, Caroline. And thank you, Rod, all for asking questions and saying hi. And we will see you same bat time next week. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good week.
See ya.